What's going on, y'all? So after some extensive testing, we got the Aero Rover. It's been a week and a half now, so I figured I'd drop some sort of guide for you in case you were wondering about Aero Rover and how to play him. Especially, I opt to use him in sub DPS role. Of course, you can use him in healer role as well, but for this, we're going to focus on the sub DPS role, or if you want to make a main DPS, whatever, or we're going to dive in so that you fully understand Aero Rover and his capabilities and how it's going to work moving forward looking at this character. But first, before we dive in, please be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out tremendously a lot. Thank you. So for those who have not completed the story, you will get the Aero Rover at the end of the story, and you will get this fancy weapon as well. So the fancy weapon that you will get here is going to be this baby over here. You will see it here. First things first that you need to note about this Blood Pack's Pledge is that these stats on it are good, but this thing can be enhanced. So we imagine that at some point during this, tenure in Rinascita, that of course this will be introduced to us. So this is a great weapon for Aero Rover. However, I'm not sure if I would say it's the best weapon right now for Aero Rover, but it will be surely as it's more upgraded and it's more characters that can kind of play along with it. Right now, I'm opting to use this baby right here, the Emerald of Genesis, which is just from the standard 5-star weapon banner. So that's what we're using for him right now. Now, if you go into his kit, you'll understand one big thing here, and that is the whole Aero Erosion effect that we're getting here. The Aero Erosion is pretty much kind of like, Spectro Frazzle in that it does damage over time, and it really works with all of these. So as you can see here over in the Resonant Skill and Skyfall Severance, while in mid-air, press Resonant Skill to deal arrow damage, which removes all stacks of Spectro Frazzle, all these things right here. So these are all, as you can see, like Havoc, Bane, Fusion Burst, Lay Shield Chaff, all these are kind of things that haven't really been fully implemented yet. So as you can see, further down the line, this will be much more beneficial when more characters are released that can actually implement and put these other DOTs, death over times, on these mobs, so that way it's easier to pull from this little pool of dots to get this Aero Erosion. Right now, the only option that you have is Phoebe Spectro Frazzle. That is the only character who currently has any type of synergy with the Aero Rover. And we'll kind of talk about, well, if you have Phoebe, should you just play Phoebe anyway in the normal team? Or what's the point of really doing Aero Erosion Rover? So these are questions that we'll pretty much address. But this is going to be the big thing that you need to understand about his kit, is that you were trying to get these Aero Erosions on this mob. So pretty much you're going to be playing for that Spectro Frazzle on Phoebe to get these Aero Erosions to do more and more damage. Now, the other notable things that you need to note in his kit is pretty much Unbound Flow. There's a few things that trigger Unbound Flow, but pretty much Unbound Flow will show it as well. It's pretty much just when your Forte Gouge is full, and then you hit Resident Skill twice, and it drops this big sword to the ground. It does some damage. That's the easiest thing to understand about that, but as all these things pretty much go into that. So Unbound Flow is pretty much on everything here. So that's really the main thing that you're kind of trying to understand here about the Forte Gouge on him, is that once you have those two there, and you can pop that Resonant Skill, and it will take you into that. Now, the normal combination here is 3 here. You can hold this. It will put you into this whole movement right here. So 1, 2, 3, hold. It'll put you up in the air. Then you can follow through like that. That's one of your best movements that you want to use on him. But we'll kind of dive into a little example here. So in this example, we're going to fight Scar here to just kind of give you a whole little rotation here. Now, we have a team of Phoebe, Verena, and Rover. I opted that this team worked a bit for the best. At one point, I was opting to do Alto instead, because Alto does give arrow damage amplified by 23% for 14 seconds. But let's face it, Verena's outro and just Verena's ability to give so much attack and damage amplification really helps with his team. So I opted to just go with Verena, but Alto is an option here for arrow damage amplified by 23%, but is maybe not the best right now. In a full arrow team, I think maybe this would work a bit better. And do also understand that with this weapon as well, with the signature weapon that you get, you see that this thing here is going to also work with these artifacts here that all go together. And this right here, the question mark. So if equipped by in the main slot by Rover Arrow or question mark, for those who have done the story, obviously you know who this question mark is, because obviously this sword is that character's weapon. So obviously you know exactly where that's going. But all these things really combine with this Aero Erosion, with this artifact set, and inflicting Aero Erosion on enemies increases arrow damage for all resonators in the team. So if it's like an all arrow group, which maybe you could possibly get away with doing of some sort in the future, then this really enhances all of these things together. So do keep that in mind when looking at these with all these abilities and all these options of using it as support units and whatnot. Of course, Shorekeeper would be a good unit as well. However, believe it or not, I don't have Shorekeeper at the moment, but we should be getting there soon. But we're opting to use Verena for right now, so do understand that that is the reason why that's happened. For my artifact sets, I do have this right here, the crit rate. Oh, this is actually my other set. I was actually using I had a different set that I was using. Actually, I was using a crit damage set, which we have this one here, so we'll apply that one. But nonetheless, you're using double arrows on this guy for this set because it's sub DPS. So you're using double arrows. I'm using crit damage. It could be a crit rate as well, and then attacks down here below. That's what you want to use for this if you're running the sub DPS role. Of course, if you're running the recommended role, it's a rejuvenating glow. As a healer, you get the increased attack to all party members upon healing allies, because pretty much everything that this guy does pretty much heals. You know, he is a healer as well. So as you can see in the kit, with these with the Forte Gauge and the normal attacks, you'll see in healing all nearby resonators in the team right here. So you will see that performance of 2 consecutive attacks and heals. So you will see that with that. So do understand that that healing is going to apply pretty much at all times. So that is a good option if you're trying to use him as a healer. Then you can use that rejuvenating glow to amplify that as a full support healer. But we're going to go inside Scar's fight here, and what we'll do is we're going to start off with blue mode. So in a team that is really amplifying with the Aero Rover here with Phoebe, you're going to want to utilize the blue mode more over the yellow mode. The yellow mode specializes in Spectro damage. For those who are not familiar with Phoebe, I did make a full in-depth guide for Phoebe, so do check that out. But for those who don't remember, she has 2 different modes that she goes into. One, you hold basic attack. The other, you hold resonant skill. The one that we're focusing on is resonant skill, which is going to apply Spectral Frazzle stacks. It gives 5 every time she's able to do her enhanced heavy attack. Whereas the basic attack ones, which you're generally going to want to use out of a rotation when you're playing Phoebe as a main DPS in a team such as with her and Spectro Rover. So do understand that as well. But we'll go in here, we'll just kind of show and kind of let you see here as we're showing the rotations here that you're going to want to do. So we're going to open up here, as you see there. We're going to open in there like that. We already have her outro skill, so we're applying those stacks there at the top there. We can go ahead and switch out here. We might be doing too much damage here to really show this. Now I want that outro skill there. And see, I'm going to press this. We're going to go ahead and go there. As you see that stack right there, at the top right there, the green, that puts that Aero Erosion on there. The easiest way to apply this is jump and just press resonant skill. That's the easiest way to apply that, by the way. That's what I kind of figure out. There's multiple ways, you know, to kind of go through the rotation of it, but the easiest way, the most simplest way, is just simply just jump and then press the resonant skill. That will apply that Aero Erosion on there, which makes things much simpler to kind of just proceed with everything else instead of going through like the whole combo and whatnot to actually apply that Aero Erosion. Get it there just straight off the jump, and then you're kind of good to go with that. So now we're into the second mode right here. And our outro skill is going to allow those stacks to actually go higher to get to 6. However, I'm not sure if this all reset while we were in here, so it may have, so that may not be the case. But we will continue to kind of see here. So these are 6. For all intents and purposes, I'm just going to go straight to this. So you see it's at 6 now. That's because of the outro skill that has the ability to amplify those Aero Erosion stacks. So you can actually go back into these rotations, and you can have these both active at the same time. Didn't do a good job right there on it, but you can actually have these both active, the Spectral Frazzle and the Aero Erosion active together pretty stably as well. which is very nice to have. So if we went back right there, which, like I said, we're not doing a very good job at it. But as you can see here, this is kind of the rotation that you really want to be focusing on if you are opting to play this team. So it's a pretty fast-paced team. It's a fun-paced team. The Spectro Rover team is also a really strong team for Phoebe. We know that. You've seen that video. Spectro Rover with Phoebe is absolutely ridiculously goated, too strong. And as you can see here with my Forte gauge here, and this little emblem around there, so if I press it twice, it'll drop this big sword on the ground, as you just saw right there. That's how the Forte gauge works. So do keep that in mind when you are running this team, that you are trying to get those Aero Erosion stacks. And as you saw there, after my outro skill from the Aero Rover, it was enabling us to get 6 erosion stacks versus the 3 that we were able to get initially. And once again, that comes from the outro skill, applying for 30 seconds that buff across your team wide, as you can see here in the outro skill. Grant Aerial Realm to all nearby resonators in the team for 30 seconds. Upon hitting a target, increase the maximum stack of Aero Erosion the target can receive by 3 for 10 seconds. This effect is not stackable. So that's why that's happening, where it goes to 6. That's how that rotation wants to work in there. Now, of course, we kind of mowed through that guy a little too quickly, but understanding this rotation is key to really playing Aero Rover. And like I said, right now, it's not necessarily the strongest team, but it's still a strong team. But should you play, if you're realistically trying to play Phoebe, I mean, maybe you should just play the Spectro team, because Phoebe is incredibly strong already as is. So do understand, this is more so for experimenting and let y'all know what to look forward to in the future and how Aero Erosion is going to apply with new characters coming forward. Now, do keep in mind also, by the way, that when I talk about this, remember, when it comes to these other elements that Rover has, you have to remember that all these resonance chains are S6. Whereas for the Aero Rover, there's a very big difference here, because we are missing out tremendously because we only have 1. So when you're looking at the damage output, you're looking at how this guy works, and you're like, okay, well, that's definitely not something I should do. Understand that the Havoc and the Spectro Rover pretty much were in the same boat before they got their resonance chains. So the resonance chains really add a lot going on here with this damage bonus and all things of the sort. More damage bonus or resonance skill. You know what I'm saying? There's much more going on here once we have the full resonance chain for this character. And moving forward, more characters will be released that can really take advantage of the Aero Erosion that Aero Rover implements. So understand that when you're looking at this team and how it really works, that it's a work in progress and it's not fully there yet, but it's an enjoyable and fun team to play if you have Phoebe. Once again, if you don't have Phoebe, you really can't play with the Rover. You can use them as a healer, but you're not going to be able to utilize Aero Erosion, which is pretty much the full kit, and it does increase damage when you have Aero Erosion on, depending on how many stacks you have. But in general, when you have Aero Erosion on the mob, that enables you to do more damage. If you don't have Aero Erosion, then you're not getting that extra damage that is so beneficial to their kit. And of course, also these echoes. This echo set is probably for sure going to be who this question mark character is right there, who we already know who she is. Hint, hint, I just told you right there. We all know who it is. It's not a secret. It's literally not a secret. It's the weapon. But nonetheless, do understand that about this character. And understand that about this weapon, that it's going to get upgrades. So progressively, as we go through Rinascita, as we go through version 2, Aero Rover will get strong. Will get better utilized in different teams. Will become a very, very solid unit, especially because Aero Erosion will be able to stay on at higher stacks and be implemented and really just go on there. At some point, we're going to get to a point where we can keep those on with other stacks as well, and it's really going to create this crazy death over time mechanic within the game. But as of right now, it's a very nice and delicate process that you really have to understand. It's almost like a waltz. in playing this character with Phoebe right now. But it's a waltz that works. It is still a very good team, a very strong team, but there's a lot of moving components to really keeping that Aero Erosion up and really maximizing the rotational values. You're really utilizing these outro and intro skills. Understand that if you're playing in this setup, you're utilizing these outro and intro skills very heavily. Now also understand that you do have the option of starting the rover first when you're running this. So you do have the option of perhaps starting with the rover and then doing an outro skill with the rover. So it goes into that buff that already is there on everyone, the outro skill buff, which can also allow you to kind of get those 6 Aero Erosion stacks a bit quicker. And so we'll kind of pop around on some of these other mobs real quick. Sometimes they die too quickly, so it's hard for me to show y'all. But we'll try our best to do here to give you some more examples. So we'll go ahead and do her because I realized, dude, if you're watching this guide, then you have already done this fight. You have Aero Rover after you've done this fight. So it's not like I'm saving you from spoilers or anything. If you're watching this guide, then you've already seen all of this anyway. So we'll go ahead and do her, and she's a bit more tankier, so we'll kind of allow to see the rotation a bit longer, a bit more better, but give you a much stronger example of how it's supposed to be played, okay? So let's go on into here. And we are definitely looking forward to this banner. For her, we're definitely looking forward to, well, it's not the boss, but the other person who uses that weapon, we're looking forward to her banner. Can I get some W's in the comments if you're looking forward to her banner and you are planning to pull on it? So let's go in here, and we can kind of start this one here. We'll just go ahead and outro straight off the jump here, and let's go ahead and apply some stacks here. And then we're going to go to Verena so that we can get that outro from her. If we can get this off, then we will. We'll go ahead and use that, even though we didn't need to. We could have opted to save that, so that way we would have a quicker outro coming back to it. So now that allows us to have 6 right there. So you see that we hit 6 right there off the jump, and we just got hit right there because we opened with the rover first, and so we were able to apply that outro skill, which allowed us to get that first. So that's why we were able to do that. Now we can opt to go like this, and now we're back in this mode here. But you see, we're not going to get stacks if I were to stay in this mode. So this is why you have to play Phoebe in the blue mode instead, because you're not going to get those Aero Erosion stacks if you are in that mode, because she's only very strongly efficient at adding those Aero stacks when she is in the blue mode. So we'll go back into it here to close this out. As you see, we're about to kill it. We'll put one more on there just cause. Oh, never mind, we're not gonna have an opportunity to. We'll have to wait for this here. Wait for the old slippity slappity dappity. Careful now. Let's go ahead and put these stacks on here, and we're going to circumvent. Oh, actually, we have to wait for this. Oh, well, dude, we just goofed up. Nonetheless, y'all saw what was trying to be done there. We can run it back real quick and just kind of give a fresh one. So in this one, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to make sure that we stay in the blue the whole time, okay? So we see we came right there, we came right in there, we're good, and now we can outro skill. So now when we go back to that, we'll be able to apply 6 on there. As you see, there's the green marking down there at the bottom of the character, and we're actually not going to use that for intents of purposes of showing this. We're not going to use her ult, just so we can rotate a bit quicker. And then we can go in here, and you want to use the skill first, because you want to get the Aero Erosion on there because it's going to do more damage. So I opt to do the Resident skill first before doing the Echo. That's why I opt to do that. As you see, it's a pretty unique little balance of gameplay here. It's a very quick gameplay. You remember too that with Phoebe, of course, with 10 stacks, she will do more damage on her abilities with 10 Spectro Frazzle stacks. So we'll go ahead and change over here. But realistically speaking, you really want to be utilizing all these outro skills and intro skills, such as Phoebe's, which we're not doing intentionally here. See, we get 6 stacks there. And then you want to use that Echo there, which we're not doing intentionally here, just to kind of showcase. But you really want to be using those a bit more so. And then you can kind of bounce around, as so. But as you can see here, this is not the craziest of teams, but it's a fun team, and it's a team that does work. But for those who have seen Phoebe play with Spectro Rover, then you know how strong she is. She's extremely strong, crazily strong. But in some fights, I've seen, I've did a lot of testing with this group, and in some fights, the timings with Spectral Rover and with Aero Rover are actually fairly similar. Not too, from maybe within a span of 10 seconds or so on defeating that boss. But in some of these other fights, it's very clear that, that Spectro, Phoebe and Spectral Rover is just too significantly better. But nonetheless, this team does work and is a fun one to kind of get into the motion of. But as you can see there, this gives you a better understanding of how to use Aero Erosion and how to apply it to enemies and how it's going to work in the future. Now, of course, like I said, I mentioned once again that this weapon will really come into play as it's further upgradable, because it's going to get these upgrades. As you can see here, this wouldn't be here if it wasn't upgradable. So it's going to continue to get upgraded. Maybe we get a rank 5. And then this is going to be really strong because resin skill damage is increased heavily here, as well as arrow damage by nearby resonators on the field is amplified. So this amplifies the whole team and the resident skill damage of this rover. So this is going to get pretty crazy down the line, as you can see. So we're looking forward to that, and it's going to be some nice synergy moving forward. We'll probably make another guide whenever these characters start to become available who really utilize these Aero Erosion capabilities that the Aero Rover can use. But until then, hopefully this guide helped out a little bit to better understand, especially if you're running a Phoebe team. Remember, this really only applies to you if you have Phoebe, because Phoebe is the only character who can apply Spectral Frazzle, which works to trigger Aero Erosion. And of course, there's the other debuffs that can be applied, but no characters have access to those right now. So Phoebe's the only character who has access to something that can trigger the Aero Erosion kit. Hopefully this helped. Be sure to like and subscribe, y'all. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think about Aero Rover. Let me know what y'all think about how it's going to pan out in the future with other characters that are going to be released, and how it's going to combine with Aero Erosion Rover and that whole mechanic. The Rover is pretty OP. He's a pretty strong character. He is super strong with Spectro in this team with Phoebe, and we're looking forward to how he's going to perform when he has all 6 of his resonance chains. But as of right now, he only has 1. So that kind of limits what we have here. But nonetheless, let me know down below what your situation is looking like. Let me know if you're looking forward to the pulls that are coming up for the person who is the owner of that sword. Hopefully this helps. Oh, because that's going to be good. I'm looking forward to that. But let me know down below what you think. I'll see you on the next one. Be sure to like, subscribe. Happy hunting. And get luck on your pulls. We're out. Spikes content.